Hiya! So, today we are going to be going through some more news regarding the upcoming Easter event, which is coming next Friday. And so in this event, we do have all of the possible event dragons revealed. We've also got the legendary dungeon for this week, which we'll check out. But firstly, I wanted to go through this post from the DML Facebook page, which was posted just about an hour ago, which says, head into Dragonlandia this Friday to join in on an Easter adventure with dragons new and old to collect. Starts March 26th. So in this video, it does show us all of the event reward dragons. It's that time of year again, our Easter Castle event. The brand new Stump dragon is the main reward dragon, so that's that blue one. The Cherry and Cottontail dragons are returning too, and then get the new Citrine dragon from a Blitz breeding event. And explore the dungeon from March the 29th, and we'll have a chance to find the Sweet Treat dragon inside. Lastly, the Dragon of the Week starting March the 29th will be the Sweetie Bunny dragon. So that's a little bit of news going into next week. And then finally, the Easter adventure begins Friday the 26th, and in this screenshot you can see all of the event dragons. You've got Citrine, Stumpy, Sweetie Bunny and all that in their little habitats, and that's basically the end of this little, I guess, promotional video for the event. But in DML, with the Easter events, they generally use the same map for the castle events, but of course that could change at any time. But if we take a look at the last 2 years worth of Easter castle events, this is the 2019 The Great Expedition event. You'll see it's got this map, and the main elements that were used were light and shadow. And then in the 2020 event, it's the exact same map, and the main elements were still light and shadow, but with a couple of other elements used. So if the trend continues, and that's a big if on this castle event, we'll likely end up seeing the same maps, and we may end up seeing the same sort of, I guess, common elements per level. So in the 2020 event, we had lots of elements that we could use on level 1 and 2. Level 3, it sort of dipped down a bit, but generally it was light on level 4, and then shadow, and then light and shadow being the main ones for level 6. And again, that was pretty much the same in 2019, but it can change, and they could have changed anything relating to these events. So again, it's a big if, but just in case, be prepared that we may end up seeing a very similar thing. And of course, with castle events, we need Stump to get the Citrine dragon, which will be released on the same day that the event starts. But that does also mean that you need to be finishing off the castle events as quickly as possible. So we'll likely have the full event guides out for the quickest paths to go through. But, you know, these maps are fantastic and useful when we go through these events. So the idea is find the key out of the chest as quickly as possible. So go to the cheapest chest first, get the key sooner, progress to the next level. So we'll be preparing for that. And like I said, if you can do some sort of preparation in terms of, you know, making sure, just in case your light and shadow dragons are at a relatively even level, that's pretty much the best that you can do. But I'm so hyped for that Citrine, I really am. Like I said before, we do also have a new dungeon week, and this time we've got a legendary in the form of Ares, who was one of the Zodiac collection dragons, but he has now returned. We do have the dungeon shop, which of course is going to have things in it. We've got little Pataya, which is a dragon I already have, gargoyle pieces, which is a dragon I already have, but then the only other really worthwhile deal this week is going to be for, well, it depends. 500 tokens for a double egg relic is a bit oof, but if you've got space for one more and you've got the currency, might as well buy it. It's always a sad dungeon week when we don't have the premium sigil chest in, but you know, maybe you could use this as just a going for the legendary week and a currency, I guess, collection week. But like I said, with that Easter event, the major reward is going to be that new Stump dragon, and you need to get him as quickly as possible so that you can start trying to breed for Citrine. So that is going to be my goal for the upcoming event. Get Stumpy as quickly as possible, get Citrine in the collection, and then I'll be a happy girl. But, you know, like anything in DML, they could change the event. They could change some of the event timers, time frames, things like that. So we'll have to wait and see until the event's actually out, but, you know, going by past Easter events, we've got a good idea of what it's probably going to be like. So, aside from that, there's not too much else going on in DML. You know, we've got the Sigil contest, which will be ending in a couple of days. We've also got Poison this week, who's the new Dragon of the Week. But I already have Poison. So for me, it's going to be a chill week, leading into quite a busy week when that Easter event does come out. So, for anyone that's ever had a castle event before, it's going to be the same thing as the Dragon Board, as in collect event currency and progress on the map instead of on the Dragon Board. And, you know, if you want to compare it to an even more relatively recent event, the Dragon's Delight event, but with more points to collect per reset. I do hope that the amount of points earned per quest isn't super low, because otherwise it's going to be a painful event again. It's like when you deal with the 200 point collections for the Dragon's Delight event, and then you go back to having to collect like 700 points or 750 points a reset. Ugh, just a pain. It's just a big pain. Not a fan. But, you know, I do wish us all the best of luck with getting all the dragons that we need. Cottontail and Sweetie Bunny. I think it's been a little while since they returned to the game, so for anyone that didn't have them before, now's your chance to try and get some of those bad boys as well. But, you know, apart from that, I guess just keep your breeding going, prepare for the new week, and, you know, we still do have the solo event on right now. Don't forget about that. We do still have the Jellyfish Jam event, which I'm still progressing in, because, you know, there's like, what, 4 days left of that event, but we'll be through that soon, hopefully get a jellyfish, and then just in time to get 2 new dragons out of this Easter event, because normally with these events we tend to only get 1 new dragon, usually, but it does seem like we are going to get 2 new dragons out of this Easter event if we at least, you know, do the castle and then do the breeding blitz. So I'm looking forward to 2 new dragons out of this. Whether that's going to keep going or not, don't know. Citrine, that's all I care about, to be honest. As long as I get Citrine, I won't have to quit DML, so that's the most important thing to me. So aside from that, we're going to keep doing our dungeon grinding and all of our other daily grinding and everything else, because what would be the point of DML otherwise? You know, we just have to sit here, keep grinding out KOs and wins. I wish this KOs pop-up didn't get in the way of my Nezha's Earth all the time. Every time that screen pops up, it just makes me a little bit angrier inside. You know, it's like it brings out a harsh demon in my psyche that's just waiting to burst. Like, why do you have to do it? I really wish it didn't. Anyway, that's my personal gripe with something meaningless in the dungeon. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. I just get mailed about lots of things. It's part of the joy that I get out of my day-to-day living. Are we gonna get burnt out? Yes. I predicted it. I was like, should I attack him? Let's be greedy. Poor choice on my part. Let's go kill Hermes as well. Well, you know, this is only the first round in the dungeon, which we normally get to just over 30 KOs, usually about 35 if I don't take a risk like that, but, you know, we'll get a few more KOs, and then we'll probably just, you know, skip out on this for now, and then do another reset in 10 minutes, but, you know, it is really important, if you are a newer player, that you do try and grind the dungeon as much as you can, because even if you don't have water, even if you don't have the best elements to use for the dungeon, you can still get a decent amount of currency just by doing basic dungeon runs. Like, just because you don't have the team that I have, you don't have to be super scared about not having the perfect team. But, you know, I know that dungeon can be very boring. Like, the main problem for a lot of people is just how boring it is to go through the dungeon every week for a lot of people, which, completely understandable. Especially after the ancient event, maybe lots of people are burnt out after having to deal with all of that. So, for now, I do wish you the best of luck. I do have some other stuff. We've got clan quests and stuff to get into. Normally, if you want to be as optimal as possible, if you're going to do the dungeon, you should, after getting a certain amount of KOs, go back to your clan quests and then activate in case you've got one asking for dungeon KOs. But I'm lazy and I'm not going to do it. You know, if I need to do it, I can come back in 10 minutes and get some more. I don't care. But that's if you are being super optimal with your clearance in a day. Because lots of people tell me, it's like, ooh, I'm going to go play DML for 2 hours. It's like, how do you even play DML for 2 hours? Because usually for me, if I'm playing, like first thing on a Monday even, when we've got dungeon and everything else to do, it's like after about half an hour, there's not anything else to do. Like even during live streams, the main problem is actually finding enough things to do, because you just run out after not very long. I don't know. I've never understood it, but people always say it to me. I'm like, what are you even doing? I don't know. I genuinely do not know. But anyway, like I said, we've got clan stuff if we want to get involved and actually score some points, which we should, because normally I end up ignoring clan stuff. Because that's another thing in DML that I normally end up skipping, just because it's like, really? More clan stuff to do? Ugh. Ugh, that's normally how I feel about clans. And there we go, we've got some dungeon KOs to do in a second. Let's go and do some mines as well. But like I said, we've also got Poison as that Dragon of the Week for anyone that wants him. So make sure that you do get to breeding him if you want. I'll go and check the combo in a second actually, because I don't remember what it is. But yeah, I just, if I don't get Citrine, I'm going to be so sad. I'm going to be so very sad. I'm going to have to quit playing DML. But here's Poison. The how-to for him is Boiling plus Seed. So if you want to go for him, good luck. He is only a 2-element rare dragon, which I do end up forgetting about more of the just 2-element dragons. Because we do have rares that have 3 elements, but he's one of the 2-element rares, of course. But that does mean that since we've got other rares that have 3 elements, if you are a newer player and you just happen to get Poison, you probably shouldn't use him. Because even though he will have higher base stats than, you know, a common or an uncommon because he's a rare, he's still only a rare. You should really only be using epics in your main squad, ever, because they have 3 elements, they've got higher base stats, they might be slightly tougher to enchant. So the only possible, I guess, exception to that could possibly be, say, the Prairie Dragon, because you unlock him at level 1, and if you don't happen to get Harpy immediately, you can use him, but you've got to be mindful that rares can only use up to rare sigils. So in the off chance that somehow, by some miracle, you end up, well, I don't know if we'd call it a miracle, but if you end up somehow getting so far in the game that you've still only got epics, or you've still only got rares, but you managed to unlock epic sigils in that time, it's gonna feel terrible. And I can't imagine a scenario in which that actually happens, but just in case that does happen at some point, you know, that would just suck. And sigils are just so important these days that you really cannot ignore sigils, which is the reason why you should never use commons, never use uncommons, and really you should avoid rares as well. And having as many unique elements as possible, I always stress that even though the fastest way to progress in DML is obviously, you know, getting through the map as quickly as you can with, usually I'd suggest 2 dragons, normally an Ancient and Divine being the best for that, but that's the quickest way to do it, but it does mean that you're going to be hindered during castle events, and we'll see during this upcoming Easter castle what the case is, because it's been a little while since we've had a castle now. I think the last one was during Christmas, and some people don't really realise why having unique elements is so important. Like, a lot of us do, because we've been playing these events for a long time, we've seen other castle events, but newer players that sort of come in and say they just used whatever dragons they managed to breed, which is common. I'm not gonna hate on everyone that does it, because it is very common for people to do that, unfortunately. But then they get to these events and say all of their dragons share the fire and, I don't know, water elements. because somehow they've made their team like that. They get to these events that's asking them for like Shadow, or it asks them for Plant, and maybe they don't have Plant, and then they realise that they've completely screwed themselves over. Unique elements are really, really important in DML, but if you can make massive, massive map progress in a short amount of time, then the idea is that basically you, just after we have a castle event, for example, if you want to really, really speed through the map, straight after we have this castle event, that would be the time to reduce your team down from, say, 3 or maybe more dragons, reduce it down to 1 or 2 mains, and then progress on the main map. And then just before the next castle event comes on, if you need to add a few more dragons to your team, that's when you do it. So the time frame, if you're smart about it and you pick the right times, you can definitely get very far in the map very quickly. I did this on the baby Android account of mine, and you can do it as well. It's not like a thing that only I can do or other people can do. Everyone can do it, but you do have to be mindful of the time frames, event timers, and plus at the minute we are sort of on the edge of unlocking a divine event. Well, it's not a divine event. They say it's not a divine event, but what is it exactly? So I would say, rather than you prioritizing the castle event in that case, it's more important than a lot of people get the divines out of the divine event, because divines are so good. You really don't want to be doing without divines. Like, the difference between epics to divine, as soon as you get that blessed with wonder acceptance, that's the difference between clearing this entire map or not clearing it. So, you know, those are my little tidbits of advice for anyone that, you know, hasn't heard me say it for the 5 millionth time before. But you don't need 12 dragons at the same level to progress in DML. It's a terrible idea. You don't even need 6 dragons at the same level to progress in DML. And even though we've got these castle events that have their specific elements that they require, it's still not a good idea to have 6 dragons at the same level. Ever. 6 plus, even. Even 4 plus is a bad idea, because you only really need 3 mains. And say you've made the team properly, so you've got 3 dragons that all have unique elements, or maybe there's 1 shared element on 2 of them, then you could have 9 elements up to that you've got on your main team. Let's say 8 or 7 to be, you know, to speak to more of the majority of players and the way that their teams end up forming. But having 7 unique elements means that you're probably going to be okay all the way up to level 5. In an event, you might have to end up skipping 1 battle possibly, but you might be able to just avoid it. And then on level 6, it does come down to, do you happen to just have that element on your team somewhere? Or maybe you just do happen to have one of them. Like this fight is, this one required 3 elements and the other 2 had 2. So, you know, it does come down to a little bit of luck in terms of this event is asking for the elements that are on my main team. But you don't need to have 12 dragons, all with an element each. You don't need to do that. You can fill it with 4 max. I still don't recommend you use 4, but 3 generally is more than enough to do it. This is speaking from someone that used to finish castle events with just 1 dragon. Because who was the dragon that I used to use all the time? It used to be our boy Andy. And he used to be my singular main dragon. And even just with him, I used to finish off castle events. It was painful, and it took a long time. But there is a decent amount of leeway with castle events, especially compared to ancient events. So even with just him, I managed to complete a lot of battles. But, you know, no matter how many times I warn and how many times I say, you know, you really don't need to waste the food on these other dragons, people are still going to do it. But if you don't do that, you'll find that you'll progress quicker than others. So I'm just letting you know here, that's the fastest way to progress in DML. If you don't care about progressing quickly, fine, do whatever. But I'm just throwing it out there for your sake. But anyway, for now, I'm excited for Citrine. I hope that we can get him nice and quick. And good luck if you do have any breeding, and make sure you are finishing off that jellyfisher event. So, for now, take care.